Okay, we just had this G550 drop off tonight for front brake pads and rotors. Gonna replace those. They're getting pretty low. And roof antenna, probably from an aggressive car wash or something, it broke off. So we got a new antenna and an antenna cover that we're gonna be putting on it, and just giving the whole car a good once over and inspecting everything up under it. Okay, so to start off, just doing the routine like general inspection that I do on every vehicle I work on. Just look over anything obvious. So just starting on the sides, don't see anything over here. Nothing's leaking. Fan bearing's good. Turbo coolant level is good. Main coolant level is good. No leaks over here. Luckily I work on this G-Wagon. Like, he always just brings it to me, so I know the history of it. I know what it looked like, you know, 3 or 4 months ago, so I know everything was good. So if there's anything wrong, it's gonna be severe because everything was perfect last time. So if anything's leaking now or whatever, it had to have been a recent leak. Everything looks good under here. Now I'll just lift it up and make sure there's nothing new under there, nothing's broken. On the undercar inspection, just looking through everything. Obviously it's getting brakes, so we don't need to worry about these very worn out rotors. Getting pads and rotors, of course, which I always suggest. Looking at the shocks, make sure they're not leaking. There's not a lot of suspension inspection on the old body G-Wagons. As you can see, it's a solid front and rear axle. There's not many points of failure here. These balls here are the pivot points. Like, this is what the wheel turns on. So they're greased by design. So you'll always see this. If it doesn't look like this, then something's wrong. So never wash that off. I never think that's a leak or anything. There's an issue with these leaking from like the inside of what would normally be like the wheel hub. I don't see anything there or here. It's just all residual grease from around here. And by design, it's supposed to look like that. I mainly just look for like rust or like these shock bushings here. How you can see like little cracks in it, which is perfectly fine. But with age, you'll see a lot of these will begin to like crumble apart. But that's absolutely not to be concerned about at all. All these bushings are good. The steering damper. You can clearly see the bottom of the engine from all angles here. There's no undershields or nothing covering these. The new body G-Wagons have undershields, but not these. Nothing's leaking at all. The rear main seal looks okay, which is a common leak on this engine. The back of the heads look good on each side. Transmission. No leaks anywhere. The transmission mount feels good. Still very stiff. All the drive shafts in this thing. You have one drive shaft going to the transfer case, another drive shaft going to the front differential, another drive shaft here going to the rear tires. These transfer cases leak all the time from various points. I don't see any leaking here. I cleaned this off really good last time because it had some oil on it. And after that, I never saw anything coming out. So that still looks good. Rear drive shaft looks good. There's no play in it. These mufflers. We did put AMG mufflers on this. So these are the upgraded like G63 mufflers. Sounds a little deeper. They still look good. No rattles inside there. Back module is good. And same with the front suspension, the rear suspension. Super crude, just one giant thick steel spring and a traditional non-electric or no air damper. It's not leaking. Either is that one. The brake caliper is good with no leaking lines. This one is also good. I just inspected these brakes last week to determine which set of brakes that were low, and it was the front, so I know the rear brakes are good. Tires are good. We put this on a couple of months ago. So yeah, as expected, nothing wrong under here at all. Completely clean G-Wagon. He takes really good care of this one. So now onto the brakes and the antenna. So before I started on these brakes, I always check the brake fluid reservoir, and this one is nearly to the max. So at some point, someone either topped it off or whenever they did a brake flush for like normal maintenance, which is probably me, it just filled up further than it should be, which is fine. But whenever you go to push the brake caliper back, it squeezes fluid back up into the reservoir and it will overflow. So always check if it's near max, just suck a little bit out so that whenever it does self-fill, it won't overflow. A little bit off the top. And then we got a new antenna cover for them to put back on because that broke off with the old antenna. There it is, perfect, back to OEM like it came out the factory. So one of the other issues that he pointed out whenever this customer dropped off the truck is this seal was coming detached, and it was just barely laid in there. But I figured the issue is the bolts that hold this fender flare are not screwed in all the way, and one is missing. So we'll have to quote that out and get another one of these seals too. It's been too loose for too long. I feel like this channel spread out too much. Like it won't even whenever it fits back in there, it's so loosely fitting. A fresh rubber seal probably. I don't know how many summers this has been through either, being loose and being heated up so much and expanded. So, and they're also $23. And then the other thing was this vent is coming out. You can see in here, the bolt is still in there for it, and it's loose. So that just tells me this has probably been apart at some point for some reason. And the threads look okay in the back of the vent. So I'm just gonna get in there and see if I can simply screw that back in. Alright, so I just got back from the test drive. Nice and solid. And the new antenna stayed on, the wind didn't blow it away. So it's on there good and solid. And we got the trim reattached for them and a new seal ordered. So once that comes in, we'll get this on and it'll be good and solid and new. And you can see the rubbers, like what I'm talking about, how they're dry rotted and not, like it's so hard it doesn't form to the fender well anymore. But we'll get one of these on order and get one of those put on, and everything else is finished up, so it's good to go.